All right, so this is my very last sample of aged pu-erh, and I'm really excited because I think it's at a really good time of the year. After I choose from my previous videos, kind of which direction I want to go, the game plan then is to sample both of spring, summer, and autumn if possible, and then maybe a couple different years just to see if it makes a huge difference. Um, this one is Ai Lao. Ai Lao. And I think this is a comparison to one that I did just maybe a couple weeks ago. But it's a really pretty cake. The smell of the dry leaf is I guess it's typical of an aged pu-erh. Sort of a green, grassy, sweet, little smoky in there once I broke the cake apart. Now, I do want to say this is the cold brew, and it has been brewing for more than 3 days. So I don't think it's going to be fair at all to try and judge this particular tea from this cold brew. But I am still interested in trying it. I do think that it can yield some information too, just because, I've talked before about, what happens when you cold brew a tea and then you take it out and about and it's kind of warm and the tea sort of brews in the in the water bottle while you're out, and how that affects the tea. And over my course of sampling different teas, I have found that there are some that just turn horrible. They get this really sour mash type of flavor, and I can typically tell whether or not the tea is going to do that based on the initial cold brew. Even though the initial cold brew might be decent, right? You can kind of tell, like, oh, if this gets left out in the sun for more than half an hour, it's going to be terrible. So anyway, this one's a really pretty color. Again, don't want to judge too much based on the fact that I'm sure it's overbrewed. If I taste it and it's not, I will be pleasantly surprised. So let's see what we get. Okay. Maybe because I know it's been brewing for so long, it does taste a bit overbrewed, but there's hardly any bitterness. There's just a background of bitterness. And what I mean by background is the bitterness is not touching my tongue at all. I don't feel the bitterness on my tongue at all. But it's just kind of maybe in the aftertaste, there's a little bit of like, oh, this is something, you know what I mean? Other than that, again, it does taste strong. But again, it's possibly that it's been overbrewed, but it tastes really good. Like, I like it, I really like it. I'm really trying to force the tea on my tongue to really see kind of where it's setting off some fireworks at. And I am getting that little bit of bitterness that I like on the undersides of my tongue, but this is more in the back, though. I can tell, no question. The bitterness is more in the back of the tongue, which is not my favorite kind of bitterness, but it's not bad. Um, if I had to describe this, I'd have to say it's sort of like hay, you know? Now, I've never tasted hay, okay? I'm just imagining that if I did ever taste hay, it would taste something like this. So again, it's that kind of grassy, green, sort of sweet, something of maybe an autumn flavor. I'm not sure if this is a spring or autumn picking, but it does have kind of an autumn note to it. But again, I really like it. I'm going to really enjoy drinking the rest of that cold brew. And again, the nose on this dry leaf is nice. It's really nice. I mean, it's really nothing, I guess, it's really nothing extraordinarily different about the smell, other than that it's a really nice aged pu-erh aroma. All right, so I'm going to hit this with really hot water. Going to wash it just a little bit, just quick enough to kind of wake the leaves up. And it looks like they are still not broken apart by that very quick wash. I typically like that. I find I like the cakes that are more compressed. I think because it offers more layers of flavor as the leaves really open up and break apart. Oh yeah, that's really nice. Oh, that's really nice. There is a sweetness in there that I can't quite pull out. It's oh man. I'm gonna say it's really hard to pull out, but it smells really good though. So again, it is your typical aged pu-erh aroma. Like I said, kind of grassy, sweet. There's not. I don't get much smokiness at all. I did from the dry leaf, but now from the wet leaf, I'm not getting any smokiness at all. That whatever smokiness was there on the dry leaf is now just being replaced by sweetness, and I just can't put my finger on what it is. It's definitely a fruit, no question about it. It's not floral at all. It's definitely some kind of fruit. It's very edible. Yeah, very, very sweet. If I had to choose a color of a fruit to describe this, I would have to say like a dark purple-ish color. But I can't describe any fruit that I've ever had that has this particular smell. But it smells really, 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 really good. All right. So again, I'm gonna do really hot water. Gonna brew this fairly quickly here. Maybe, I don't know, is that like 5 seconds or something? And then I'll play around with temperature and steep time after. Yeah, it's really sweet. It's really sweet. I really, this is one of those cakes that, you know, you could really spend a lot of time just smelling. Now, I do want to say, because I've mentioned this in previous videos, this liquor is a nice color. Again, we're talking about, you know, something like a 5-second brew, first steeping after the wash. And so it's a nice, light, tan-ish color. There is a bit of material in the cup, but nothing really floating around. It's really settled to the bottom. I did get an answer back from my previous video concerning the little black flakes that was floating to the top of the liquor, and someone suggested that it was burned leaves. So when the tea is being cooked, you know, if the leaves are burned at the tips or anywhere, it makes sense that they will break off and then make it into the tea. So, does those burnt tips add to the flavor. I think maybe it definitely changed the flavor because I did not like those teas at all, at all. And so maybe that is definitely a quality marker for me personally to look at. Maybe there's some out there that, you know, enjoy those burnt leaves, but I didn't care for it at all. So, you know, maybe, who knows, in the future, maybe I'll come across a tea that has some of those burnt pieces, and maybe I'll find that I like it. But as of now, so far, that was my first time experiencing it, and I didn't care for it at all. So this one doesn't have that. It's really good to see. Again, like I said, sediment is at the bottom, as you can see. I imagine that that's going to change after a few steepings. We'll see. Yeah. So definitely a light brew. There's just no bitterness there at all. Very straightforward, down the middle of the road, aged pu-erh flavor. I'm gonna brew this up for longer and see if I'm able to tease anything else out of it, because now that he has dissipated some, that smokiness is coming back. Yeah. So again, still fairly sweet, but definitely the smokiness is there now. And so I'm going to brew this as long as I can stand it. Going to agitate that water a little bit. May not be the best practice, but again, you know, this is me sampling and testing. And so I kind of want to put these teas through the ringer and really see what they're made of, you know, because for me, like I said, I really want to buy like maybe like a tong of something, and that just be my tea, or my aged pu-erh rather, for, you know, next couple years. And so I really want something that's going to be able to kind of get beat up a little bit, and something that I'm not going to have to be so concerned with as far as like steeping times and whatnot. You know, it is fun for me to have those teas where I'm like, okay, this one I know I have to, you know, be mindful of how I'm brewing it and things like that. For instance, the Kenyan purple tea, you definitely got to be careful with that one. You can't just brew it up without thinking. You really have to pay attention to it. It's really about temperature and time. But again, like I say, I mean, that's kind of the thing that I'm looking at for all of these when determining which one I want to go with. This is interesting. So this appears to be a tea bud or tea flower or something. I like someone's input on that as well. I don't know if I've ever noticed that before in a tea. And then again, the question becomes, you know, if there's a lot of those, how does that affect the flavor? It doesn't appear to be a lot of them. I think that also says something to the time of year that this was picked, because I think the buds happen later in the year, right? So maybe this isn't an autumn picking, which makes sense based on the kind of autumn feel that I get in the on the nose rather. Haven't really tasted it in the brew yet. But we have a nice strong brew here. So, of course, definitely much darker liquor. The sediment is not as much. And so, again, you know, I expect that to continue to decrease as we go through steepings. See what we get. Well, there you go. Found the bitterness. Definitely at the back of the tongue. So again, you know, not necessarily the bitterness that I enjoy, but it's not horrible. It's not bad, but it's definitely overbrewed. And so, what was that? Maybe a 20, 30-second steep, but very hot water though, right? Yeah, definitely getting like an autumn vibe from this. I have to say though, the bitterness is nice. Again, it's not my favorite, but I'll say that of all the teas I've had that have that type of bitterness that touches the back of your tongue, this one is nice. You know, it's sort of medicinal. You know what I mean? Kind of like when you're swallowing an aspirin or something like that. It does linger, but again, this is also, you know, sort of overbrewed. Talking about a 20, 30-second steep, very hot water. You know, I've noticed that I haven't said much about um, body sensation. I did talk about that with some other teas, and I've realized that the reason why is because if I really like the tea, I drank a lot of it very fast, and then that's where you can get some sort of body sensation. But if I'm drinking the tea sort of tepidly, right, and I don't really get a body sensation. This one, I'm definitely feeling a little something in my stomach, but I don't really feel much at all. I need to go grab some water. Let's see if it's going to allow me to do that. Mm. No, didn't look like it. Nope. I used to be able to pause it. Okay, well, I'll be right back. All right, well, can't pause it. That's new. I wonder if that's the phone or Facebook. All right, let's see where I got this water down to. 117. Gonna get it up just a little bit higher. So I don't want to play around with steeping times too much. Let's see. All right. 121 is not perfect, but it will do. So now the aroma is changing again. Now I'm really getting that wet leaf. Really starting to smell a little bit of the storage. But again, not a bad thing. Still a nice aroma, just different. All right, so cooler water. Let this one steep for, I don't know, maybe. The first steep was hot water, very fast. So this one I want to do lower temp, but maybe about 20 or 30 seconds, because the first brew was really light. So I think that's about 30 seconds. All right. So yeah, third steeping, much less material in the glass. I think that does say something to the quality of the picking. Still a little bit of sediment, but not nearly as much. Color. This is not really, it has not been very clean. Lots of activity in there. I mean, it's fairly opaque. And that's been the case throughout all three of these brews. Mm. I feel like this tea does have some good things to offer, but I think that it requires really dialing in the temperature and time, because what's happening is that, like I said, the first brew, hot water, very short steeping time, good but very light. You felt like you needed more. Hot water, longer steeping time, overbrewed, too much. So now lower temperature, relatively long brewing time, and it's good, but you feel like you need more. Because what I'm wanting is, I'm really wanting that sweetness to come out, and what I'm getting is that sort of hay sweetness, but that fruity sweetness is at the beginning, when it first hits your tongue, like, it's there. You just want more of that, and then it's like the fruitiness goes away, then you get the hay, then you get the bitterness on the back of the tongue, and it's not as minerally as the stronger brew, but it's definitely still there, right? For me, um, I like this tea, um, but it doesn't knock my socks off at all. And I'm gonna do this again. Gonna see what happens. Again, cooler water. This time I'm gonna just steep it as long as I can stand it and see what happens. Because I am certain that if I use cooler water and do like a flash brew, it's just going to be too weak. So I'm going to let this sit for a moment and see what happens. The cold brew, really good, and again, because I'm having this elusiveness with this tea, I really hate that this cold brew brewed as long as it did, because it is really good, and I'm going to enjoy drinking this, no question about it. I'm going to really enjoy drinking this, but it does taste a bit overbrewed. And so I have a feeling that if it was, cold brewed for the typical 24 hours that I usually do, then it will have been much better, and maybe it wouldn't have tasted overbrewed at all. But who knows? I don't think this will make it onto my favorite list. But again, at this point, I really don't know which one was my favorite. So maybe this one is in the same area as my favorite. I do, again, in my memory, I recall a few teas that I really just loved, and I just drank them really fast, and I was really sad to see them go. I'm going to go back and watch my videos to find those few, find out where those teas are from, and then go from there. So, like I said, this may be in their neighborhood. I don't know. So, I think that's long enough. And I can see right away that even with, that's got to be at least a minute and a half. You know what I mean? As you can see, the color is a bit darker, but not much darker. Again, still some material in there. This one, I think, again, just because the cake is starting to open up a bit more, and because I did steep it for so long, there's more material in it. And now it's sweet again. There's no smokiness. This is really, really, I was going to say strange, really cool, actually, that you get these changing flavors on the nose. And like I said, smells great. I really enjoy, I mean, man, drinking tea is one thing, but then there's also the thing about smelling tea as well. And there's just some teas that I just want to stick my nose into. And I really enjoy this one. It does kind of go back and forth between sweet and smoky, all while maintaining that sort of grassy aged pu-erh note. It's really nice. All right, let's see what we get on this one. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's it. I found it. It didn't take long. It only took 4 brews, but I found it. So, 120. Like I said, you can play around with the heat, of course. I usually go down to 130, but I didn't want to keep messing around. So, yeah, so 120, and I steeped it for about a minute and a half, and that seems to be a real nice sweet spot, which I think is the case for most aged pu-erhs, honestly. Again, I do this strictly because I want to really put these things to test to see what happens. But yeah, this one is nice. It is. It's really good. That fruity sweetness is now something of a pastry. Which is to be expected when you think about the fact that you have fruity sweetness along with that sort of hay type of flavor. It's more of a pastry, and it's still something in the neighborhood of like a purple filling wrapped around like a thin, flaky crust, It's just really hard to say blueberry, right? But if I had to pick a fruit, that's the one I'll go with. But blueberry just didn't really jump out at me at first. But if I had to pick something, I'd definitely go with blueberry. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. So again, cooler temperatures, depending on, exactly what water temp you're at. You can't do this grandpa style, no way, because you'll overbrew it for sure. But it can definitely stand to be steeped for quite some time. Because, like I said, look at that color. It's a nice color, but you can definitely go a little longer. That's really nice. Yeah, it's really nice. I'm gonna enjoy drinking through this one. If I do find out anything else, I will definitely come back and say something. Take a look at those leaves. Nice, pretty green. Um, yeah, it's just sweetness. Nice, nice and sweet. Okay, that's it. I want to keep talking about this thing, but I mean, yeah, I like it. I really do. Um, and yeah, if I find out anything else, I'll say so. I don't know that I will though. Honestly, I think I've really put this thing through its paces. Oh, I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to drink through this. I'm definitely going to put it back in the fridge for another 24 hours for a second steeping. And because it's sort of overbrewed this time, I imagine that the second steeping is going to be much weaker. And so if I get any new information out of that, I'll definitely come back and say so, because I can imagine that it's possible that it'll either be too weak, in which I won't say anything about it, or it'll be like perfect, you know? So that's it. That's just Ai Lao Mountain.